Like, I love hearing people take their pain and turning it into something beautiful, which is like kind of goes along with like my podcast theme.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is an intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Abigail Gagnon. She has her own podcast called the Beyoutiful You podcast, and she's a mental health advocate. Today, we're going to frame this conversation around mental health, self-love, personal growth, and maybe bridging the gap for the listeners to understand about invisible illnesses. And Abigail, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely grateful. Your story resonates with mine. There's some similarities. And I guess where I always start is just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Abigail Gagnon, and I am a podcast host. I am also someone that deals with chronic health that they got worse back in 2016, so almost 10 years ago now. And I am a wife. I used to be in food service for many, many years, loved it, but then my health kind of got worse. And so I had to take a step back from that. And that was really hard on my mental health for many reasons. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I kept getting, thrown from one doctor to the next. It felt like it was like all in my head because nobody could figure it out. So that was really difficult. And then I started really investing a lot of my time in building community on Facebook and on Messenger. And that really helped give me a purpose and helped, me find the point in living, I guess, again, in the sense that I felt like I could help people even from my bed, even from my couch. And that's something that I've tried to promote because there are many people that are a part of the communities that I run that either deal with health issues or mental health issues or have financial issues where they can't necessarily get out of their house as much as they would like or whatever. So it's been really great to be able to encourage them to participate in community and find that. And then after several years of doing that, I kept being told, "Oh, you should start a podcast. You give great advice." And I was like, "I don't know if I want to do that." But I decided one day, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And so I downloaded a hosting app and recorded a couple episodes, put them out in the same day, and was like, you know what, if I don't do it now, and I'm going to keep procrastinating. So I did it. And at first I wasn't sure if it was going to be more solo episode focused or if it was going to be more guest. I wasn't quite sure, but now it's mainly guests. But I do some solo episodes and I've loved being able to connect with people all over the world. And I feel like it's kind of an extension of the communities that I run in the sense that it's not necessarily affiliated with that, but I bring people on that have expertise or have stories that I may be able to relate to in some degree, but I can't necessarily relate in others. And so it's been really helpful when I've, in the last couple of years, different people have said, "Oh, I struggle with this," or "I'm going through this." Even if I can't relate, it's been really, really cool to be like, "Hey, I have this podcast episode. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want to, but she gave some really good advice or he gave some really good advice." And it's allowed me to be able to extend my circle of like community. And it's been really, really neat to be able to meet so many people and learn from them. And I feel like sometimes I'm getting like free therapy from all the people that I have on and be able to learn from them. It's been so great. I love it.
Yeah, it's probably unexpected too, right? You didn't expect that when you first started it.
No, not at all.
I know the feeling. And then also like it helps you grow. And that was another unexpected thing. Just like when you're researching a guest, their subject, whatever they do, and then it brings you somewhere else. And then you start learning all these new things. But the idea of seeing other people not in pain, because we don't really want that, but it is what it is. And seeing that there's maybe you have fibromyalgia and someone else might have chronic, I think it's called CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome. and they're different, but they're kind of the same. And then you can kind of relate to that. And through your community, I'm sure you see this all the time where someone goes, "Oh, you feel like that? Oh, that happens to you? I thought I was the only one."
Yes, yes. I love being able to see that and have people realize like I'm not alone. And it's so awesome. And I've had so many people on that deal with chronic health issues and they have different things. And there was one person I had on last year, I think, and we talked a lot about the grief of the Spoonie life and how, it comes with so much grief of, not being able to do the things you want to do, or if you got sicker later in life not being able to do the things you used to do, and people that aren't a part of that community not getting it. And it was interesting because I had lots of notes and I try not to like be super stickler with my notes. I like it to be conversational, but we barely touched on that. Like we did, the conversation just flowed. It ended up being a two-parter. It was awesome. And that's my favorite thing is being able to just chat with people and become friends with them and, then get to be a part of their life. And I've had some people on multiple times. It's been really great to learn from other people and realize that there's a lot more commonality, even when there is difference.
Yeah, I love that. I think the idea of just when we get together and we share, like, so you get someone comes on and they share very vulnerably about whatever they're going through, and then it happens in a group more, but it's almost like there's permission once somebody does it that everyone else gets to do it. The reason I'm saying this, I facilitate groups for chronic pain. I don't think you know that, but the spoon theory comes up a lot. So we'll talk about that in a minute for people who don't know what it is. But also the idea of just like you might not want to talk to your partner about it. You might want to talk to your kids, your family, your boss. They just don't get it, right? So now you go into a room with people who do get it. And this, in some way, it helps to heal a little bit.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I definitely have felt that way. And it's hard sometimes because, my husband knows a lot about it and is there for me, but there are times that I'm very good at masking and hiding it because I don't want to just every single time he comes home be like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain today and like be moaning and groaning about it. He's got his own stress from work and like that would kind of make me a really, boring wife if that's all I talked about. But there are times where I feel like he often doesn't forget, but there are times where I feel like he doesn't realize the extent of it. And I remember a couple months ago, I told him, I was like, you do not understand. Like, I'm frustrated. And like, I don't even remember what exactly was going on, but there was like a lot of factors going on. And I just broke down. He's like, I don't understand what's going on with you. Like, why all of a sudden are you freaking out? And I'm like, I'm not just like freaking out. I have this weight. I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to have to pretend to be okay all the time. And we were going to be going over to some friend's house, which I love. I'm very much an extrovert, love doing that. But I was like, not complaining, but I'm like, I just need a minute to like group and like do my thing. Don't rush me. Like, they'll be fine if we show up like a few minutes past. And I was like, I just need a second. And I was like, because I need to not brace myself, but kind of to have to pretend to be okay to some degree. And again, like those friends, like they'll listen, like they're not gonna, be like, oh, Abigail, we don't want to hear about your pain, but I also don't want to show up and just complain the whole time either. And so I feel like sometimes it's really hard and exhausting to have to sometimes feel like you have to be okay even when you're not. And that's one thing that I want to try and raise awareness for, not only with like the communities I run, but also the podcast. And it's okay not to be okay. And well, yes, like I said, you don't want to just sit there in it, and you have to be able to find the joy even in the hard stuff. I think sometimes it's important to also make sure the people around you know and give yourself permission to feel that.
Right. And this goes directly to spoon theory. So maybe now would be a good time to talk about what is spoon theory and how it relates to that last story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I probably might not explain it as well as some people, but basically the spoon theory is someone that's quote unquote healthy. Obviously, we all have our own, mental health or different struggles that we have. But someone that's healthy may have, like, say we all get 5 spoons in a day or 10 spoons or whatever. Someone that's healthy could get out of bed, shower, and eat breakfast, and they only have 1 spoon gone. And then they go to work and they do all their things and another spoon gone. Whereas someone that's chronically ill, will sometimes need two spoons just to get out of bed or one spoon just to get out of bed. And so it can be really hard sometimes when you're trying to do all these things. And also, for me at least, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, sometimes the spoons, you collect them, you rest the day before. So the next day, in hopes that you can do all the stuff. And then you wake up and all the spoons you collected are nowhere. And you wake up with nothing. And it can be really, really hard because it's like I collected them and they got stolen from me. And like I said, it can be really hard sometimes. And I feel like people don't necessarily realize the mental toll that it can take, especially when it's an invisible illness. Like I deal with a lot of, I've got spine issues, I've got a thyroid issue, asthma, and migraines. And people don't realize sometimes because I look fine and I act fine most of the time, but like these glasses that I have on right now, they're blue light glasses because if I'm on my phone a lot, they help with my migraines. Other people, if I'm walking, down the street, they would think it's just, regular glasses. They don't know. Um, and so I just think it's really important to realize that people often are struggling with things that you don't know anything about. And even if it's not a chronic illness, that we need to show compassion for people. Obviously, certain people, if they're in your life and they show patterns over and over again, maybe you don't need to have that person in your inner circle. But at the same time, realize that they may be struggling and maybe they need, help. And they need to find people that can help them heal and grow versus just, you know, not showing them that compassion.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, spoon theory, let's say we have 10 spoons in a day and we got to figure out how to use them. If you're stuck in chronic pain, you're going to have to say no sometimes because you only have a certain amount of spoons. So, you trying to get ready for your friends, needing a minute to just breathe, get ready, whatever. You're probably trying to figure out how am I going to go through this when I only down to 2 spoons for the rest of the day.
Mhm.
Sometimes you might actually have to borrow a spoon from tomorrow and say, look, I'm going to this concert tonight no matter what. Tomorrow means I'm going to probably be on the couch all day because I'm going to use 2 or 3 more spoons from there. I wanted to draw this out and it goes with your story, but for other people, because if you're listening to this, even if you don't have a chronic illness, you probably know someone who does. And not all chronic illnesses are visible. So if you see someone in a wheelchair, it is a lot easier to have compassion for them and maybe understand. But I guarantee if you're listening to this, you know somebody who has an invisible illness that they didn't ask for, but they're trying to go through life and they're masking it. Like you said earlier, sometimes we just have to mask it. And I find it's more so in women, but um, I think spoon theory, that's a good tool to help understand if someone what they're going through. But does he have any other kind of tools like that?
Like to help explain it to people, you mean?
Or that you use for yourself, just certain things to help you get through the day and retain some
Yeah.
spoons?
Yeah, that's another thing too that's really can be really exhausting to have to think like if I'm going to a friend's house, I'm also gluten free because I'm very gluten intolerant and also gluten is an inflammatory, so that doesn't help my back pain and my carpal tunnel in my head and all that stuff. So I can't eat it. So if I'm going to someone's house, I have to think, what are they going to be eating? Are we going to be there for a very long time? Am I going to need to bring something for food? Do I need to ask them what are they making for dinner and can I eat it? Like all these things. And then, like I said, I have blue light glasses that I use when I'm going to be on my phone a lot. Also, with fluorescent lights, I know that it helps with that as well. So, if I'm going to be going in the store or whatever, I've got loop earplugs that help with sound. Like, we went to a hockey game a couple years ago with our friends, and I had to wear my loop things. I had to make sure I brought them. And there's different things like that that I have to think about. Or if I'm going to be on my feet a lot, I have really flat feet. So, I have to wear certain sneakers with lifts in them or I have to make sure like I bring a chair some places, or I have something called a crazy creek that can go on like the ground, or it can go on, I don't know, a chair that doesn't have a back, and so you can have like a back support. And so if I know that I'm going to be somewhere that I'm going to need a chair, but I don't have the space to bring like a normal folding chair, I'll bring that. So there's so much that goes into it, which that was another thing in that moment with my husband. I was like, you don't have any idea. Like, you don't have to think about all these extra things that you have to bring and that you have to, because he sometimes will get frustrated where I'm like, well, how long are we going to be there? Are we going to be there for dinner? And he's like, I don't know. We can just go with the flow. And I was like, yes, I want to go with the flow. I'm a very spontaneous person by nature, but I also have to think and plan for go with the flow. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah. How did you come up? Well, let's say what is the name of your podcast, but how'd you come up with that?
So my podcast is called Beautiful Legacy, and it is spelled Beyoutiful. And so I don't know, the name kind of came to me. I don't fully know how I came up with it, but I had been in network marketing for a little bit, and I was doing makeup and stuff like that. So I had Beautiful You was the page, and it was spelled that way. So I was like, okay, that kind of goes with it. And then also a big focus that I try to help people, especially those with chronic health issues, to realize that they can still leave a legacy. Because I think oftentimes when we think of legacy, we think of material possessions, like we can leave money, or if we have children, we can, instill certain things in them, or leave a house or a business. And if we don't have children, if we don't have, the money, or we can't work because of chronic illnesses or whatever, like leaving a legacy is more than that. It's, being there for people. It's how we show compassion, kindness, and those things then can live on. And even if what they learned or how we impacted them and then impact someone else, and we may never see all the people we impacted in our lives. And that in it of itself is a legacy. I think that when people, it's a funeral, no one is going to be like, oh, well, some people maybe, oh, they had nice cars and they have this nice business and they have all this money. Like they're going to be talking about stories of how you impacted them, something funny that you said or did or whatever. And so I think that, especially, like I said, those in the chronic illness community, remembering that, or those that may be infertile or, can't have kids that want kids, like that is something that can be really difficult, but you can still leave a legacy. And that's something that I want to remind people of. And then also all the guests that I have on, be able to learn what kind of legacy they want to leave. Like ask at the end of every episode, I ask people, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Why do you want to leave it? And how are you making it happen if it's outside of what we've been talking about? And I love hearing everyone's answers to that question.
Yeah, that's nice. I love those kind of questions where you get to learn and grow from it. So I have one question like that, and usually I ask it later, but maybe I'll ask it now. And this is the Phase 4 podcast, and Phase 4 in the sixth phase meditation by Vishen Lakyani is about creating your future 3 years out. So where is Abigail 3 years from today?
That's really that's a really good question. I think podcast wise, I would love to be making money with it. Because even though my husband is amazing and he is not the type to be like, oh, well, you don't work and you can't always clean the house and I have to pay for everything and it's my money, and he's not like that at all. But I would love to be able to help contribute. So I would love to be able to make money with the podcast. I would love to have more guests on, maybe some like dream guests. And not to say that I have people on because of their status or whatever. But I think it would be super cool to have maybe like one of my favorite artists come on, or favorite author or something. I think that would be super cool. Ministry wise, I think I would just like, to see it, my community group, see it continue to grow. I would love to be able internally be able to get to a place that I'm much better now, but I'm not that great at resting sometimes. And being chronically ill, that's important. And so I have been really working the last few years at reminding myself that doing more can't add to my value. And so doing less cannot subtract from it. And physically, I am much, much better. And I have been able to see the growth in that. But internally, while I do want to grow, I do want to become a better version of myself. I also want to get to a place that I can literally just be and not feel like I have to be reading a self development book, listening to a self development podcast, working on inner healing, whatever. I want to be able to just get to a place where I can just be and know that I am worth it, know that I'm loved, know that I'm priceless. And I had to do literally nothing to earn that. And so that's something I'm really wanting to work on. And in my marriage, I guess I want to continue to have quality time together. He works a lot at the moment. Um, and so I'm hoping in a few years that he won't have to work as much and that we'll be able to have more time together off our phones, off the TV, and be able to, like, go do other things. And, maybe in 3 years, I would love to have kids. And that is something, I'm not old, but I am in my 30s. And so I would love to hopefully, in the next 3 years, either be working on, hopefully getting pregnant or be pregnant or have a kid, and work on building that part of my legacy if that's something that is in the cards for us.
That's awesome. I love that question. Just you get so many different answers. You can see people thinking, dreaming, happy, smiling about their future. So thank you. Appreciate that. Um, the Facebook group. Tell us more about the Facebook group. Who's it for? How do you get into it? What kind of stuff happens in there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Christian, but you do not have to be a Christian to join. We do have some things that are like we have Bible studies, we've got, faith-based book studies. But it's like I said, it's not just for Christians. Some people may be like, oh, I don't want to be in something where they're talking about God, but we want anyone to feel welcome. We want it to be a safe place. So we've got multiple Facebook groups. It's called SIC and MIC Ministries. And then we have a women's group, a men's group, a men and women's group. Then we have a chronically ill group and different things like that. And then we have many messenger support groups. So one of the things that over time that's kind of developed where people will be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or I'm really struggling with that. And people will comment like, I really struggle with that too. I didn't realize somebody else did, like we were talking about earlier. And so then I slowly, started making these support groups through Messenger. So we've got, some for mental health, some for abuse, some for people that are feeling like they want to take their life or self-harm, relationships. Like I said, we do have a Bible study. We've also got some that are just for hanging, like basically they're called hangout chats where anything and everything goes. And those generally, I feel like for the most part, have like just a bunch of random people, not necessarily people that share my faith and a lot of my team's faith. But we have people on the team that either necessarily aren't Christians, but they just want to help build community. They want people to feel less alone. And that's a big focus of ours is to remind people that they're not alone, that we're stronger together, and that, we can build the community that we want to see. And I think that that's something that, if you are not finding what you're looking for, start it or be the person that you're not seeing around. And so that's something that we try and focus on. And I love being able to see people that may not even, may not be a Christian or may have gone to church growing up, but kind of fell away from that because of life or whatever. And they come together. And even if they don't believe what I believe or other people on my team believe, like we're able to find commonality. And that's a big focus, I guess, or a big theme in my life is just wanting to remind people that it doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter what you believe in. If we can find so much commonality. And I absolutely love seeing that. Like I recently had someone on my podcast and she was talking about how she does nude yoga sessions. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I'd never heard that was a thing. And she was explaining to me like why she wanted to do that because she grew up like really conservative and like feeling restricted by, having to be like really modest or like the mindset of like, oh, well, you have to dress for, to hide certain things so that men don't think stuff. And I'm like, I grew up that way too. But I can't imagine like going to the point of I want to do yoga. So like it was just interesting like to see like how people from different backgrounds or even like my siblings, like we have same parents, my sister's 12 years younger. So I feel like she got completely different parents than I did, but that's a whole other thing. But just like we can all come away from the same experience but have completely different things that help us cope or help us deal with it. And so that's something that I love being able to see not only through the groups and through the messenger support groups and through the book studies, the Bible studies, whatever, but also, like I said, through the podcast.
Nude yoga, eh? It's like never heard of that one. So the
Yeah.
pod, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say she also was talking about nude like comedy shows too, and I was like, oh, I like it's freeing for her, it works for her, but it's just like I said, it's interesting that like from our similar-ish background, how that was something that really helped her heal. Where I feel like that that wouldn't work for me, but I'm glad it works for her.
It's hilarious. I was gonna ask you, have you ever had someone like what's the strangest or weirdest kind of I was thinking more along pain, some kind of chronic illness that we don't really know about, hear about, that was interesting to you? And then you brought up nude yoga with this one girl. But is there anything about an actual like illness, like something random that we don't really see, or something that surprised you, maybe?
Trying to think. I've had quite a bit of people with chronic illness, and some I didn't know as much about. Like I had one person come on talking about her muscular dystrophy, and she actually started a clothing line that's adaptable for people in wheelchairs because of that, which I think is super cool. And I love that for her. And so I didn't know much about it. And so to learn about that, same with somebody that has MS. And so I think I haven't had too many people that I've like know nothing really about their illness. Um, so I don't necessarily would be off the wall or weird or whatever, but it has been really interesting to see also, like I said, the commonality of even if what they're dealing with, I don't really know, like can't relate to some degree. I feel like having even if it is a visible illness, like being in a wheelchair, we still struggle with certain things, like doctors not believing that we're in as much pain as we say we are or whatever. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's someone specifically that I've had.
I remember hearing all the time, it's in your head from the doctors.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand. I thought they were saying I was making it up, but they weren't saying that. They were saying like the communication between my back and my brain is the wires are crossed and it's actually in my head. And I didn't get it at the time. And I was always angry about it. Like, he doesn't believe me. They're saying it's in my head. And then once I understood a little more about the science and everything that was happening internally, um, then I was like, oh, okay, it maybe it is in my head. I think
Yeah.
the one the one you just said about the girl who started a clothing line, there's another thing, right? People sometimes they think, oh, this person's in a wheelchair, they can't do anything. Or like you're just used and it's like, no, that's not true at all. And look at this girl starting her own clothing line out of it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. She even does like fashion shows and she's been on like Good Morning America and different things like that. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Like, I love hearing people take their pain and turning it into something beautiful, which is like kind of goes along with like my podcast theme. And it's so neat to have so many people on that some of them, yes, are similar. Like, I've had multiple people on that, are coaches or therapists or whatever, but I think also no matter how many people I have on that are talking about the same thing, it's also so different. Like I said, you can have so many different stories that come out of a similar background because everyone comes at it from their own unique perspective. And I love it. I love being able to learn and be able to see. And it's so inspiring too, to see what people are doing despite their limitations. And it makes me more motivated to want to do things, and realize, yes, we all have limitations, but also to realize that sometimes our greatest strength is, through those and despite them.
Yeah, for sure. What is it? Your pain, turn your pain into purpose, turn your mess into the message. All of these things, like we can use it as a gift. That's why this is your story is your superpower, because if it doesn't resonate with you, that means like, okay, you can start now and make your story whatever you want it to be and make that a superpower. But like what you're doing, you've turned that, you could just sit there and feel sorry for yourself and like nothing, right? But you've turned it into a couple different things. And that has a ripple effect kind of that goes towards legacy. So maybe I'll flip the script on you and ask you, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want people that, know me or have listened to my podcast or be a part of the community. I want them, like I said, to know that they are loved and they are worth it. They are priceless and they matter and that their story matters. And I want anybody that, knows me to feel like they matter no matter what. And even if, I have some friends that are there for a season and they come back or they're just there for a season, like, I don't know. I would love my impact to be that they know that they have worth and that they know that they were loved and that I saw them, I guess, for who they are, despite no matter what they've been through. Because, like I said, there's so much commonality, even when there is difference.
Amazing. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that God has a plan for each and every one of us. And so the plan is for us to prosper and not to be brutal and feel bad, and it's there. So we got to lean into it. And really, what I believe is happening in that verse is it starts inside. It's a state of mind. And so you can believe either way. No, no, God has it out for me and I'm never blah, blah. Or it could be like, okay, this is right. And so you're already living your purpose no matter what. Everybody is. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing at that moment is your purpose. But for God, what is the exact quote, man? I always say it, I forget now, but God has a plan, right? So the plan is for us to prosper, not to hurt us. So with that said, I think as we begin to wind down, if this episode resonates with you, please like, subscribe, share, follow, and reach out to Abigail. Check out her podcast. We're going to leave all that stuff in the show notes. Do you know, Abigail, who the Imagine Dragons are?
Yes.
Man. And do you know his
Yes.
story? That guy's story about the song Believer?
I don't know if I've heard it before.
Okay, so he was really bad. He was in chronic pain and same everything. And just, he kind of surrendered
Mm-hmm.
to something higher to take care of him, that something is there. There's an intelligence, God, source, universe, whatever, that loves him, that's has a reason. And so then he turned his pain into his purpose through the song Believer. And if you go back now after and listen to the lyrics, you'll be like, whoa.
I'm gonna have to do that after.
Yeah. I guess before I ask my final question, I always let the guests take it wherever they want. So if you have something to sell it. If you have a message of hope or inspiration, or if you want to wrap it all together, just take it away.
So I guess I've kind of talked about this and touched on this a little bit. But I just want to, I guess, reiterate that doing more does not add to your worth, and doing less can't subtract from it. And no matter what state of life you're in, whether you're chronically ill, whether you're dealing with a mental health issue, whether you're a mom, whether you work outside the home, whatever it is, those things do matter. What we do does matter, and it does make us who we are to a point. And, you know, our patterns do shape us, but we're also capable of change. We're also capable of changing those things. But regardless of whether we change them or not, our value doesn't change and who we are doesn't change. And so I think that that is something that I've been working on. And I think that that is something that I would want to leave the listeners with, to know that they have value.
Amazing. I had to pull up this quote because I should know it. I say it all the time. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. My final question is, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So, like you said, he will link, I'm assuming, my website. So on the website, there is socials, but you can, if you look up Beyoutiful_legacy on Instagram, again, that's spelled Beyoutiful, _legacy. So that's on Instagram. The podcast is on all platforms. It is not on YouTube, but it's on everything else that you can think of, even like the smaller ones that you might not even know of, but it's definitely on the major ones. So just look up Beautiful Legacy. And it's also on Facebook. If you just look up Beautiful Legacy on Facebook, everything that I share on Instagram is then shared on the Facebook. So whatever platform you prefer, you'll still be getting all the same contents. And if you happen to be on Marco Polo, you can't search it on there. But if you are on Marco Polo, I do have a behind the scenes sharecast on there where I share clips of the upcoming episodes. So people that are in there get clips before anyone else. Also, if there's any changes with upload schedule or whatever, I do share those there first. And so that is something, if you're interested in behind the scenes stuff and you're on the app Marco Polo, the link is in my website there. And I do have an extensive wait list, but if you are interested in being on my podcast, you're welcome to fill out the guest form, but just know that it probably will be a little bit before we record together.
Amazing. Abigail, you are leaving a beautiful legacy, and I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you.